Hi. So I see I'm the last thing standing between you and your lunch. So I've tried to go fast. I don't think I can speak as fast as Todd, but I do my best. So I'm going to give you a project update for the Kokkos ecosystem on behalf of the leadership team and the developer team. I wasn't planning on telling you what Kokkos does, but if you've never heard of it, it's an ecosystem, programming model, and math libraries and all the good stuff that lets you write your code once and run anywhere from your laptop to all the supercomputers that we deploy. So let's see what happened since last year. So we've been pretty active. We had a number of training events. We've been participating for a while at PESC school, and so we were present. We were really happy to be part of the first HPSF training in San Diego. So with our friends from Spark and Tridinos, we had a 2 days lecture on Kokkos. In CEA, we had a week-long hackathon with some training there. It was very well attended. We were really happy about this. And recently, we had a full-day training in SE HPC Asia, along with a lot of other projects in HPSF. Other events that happen. So we have our own seminar series that we call Kokkos Tea Times. We had 6 of these. They're recorded and posted on the HPSF website, YouTube channels or whatnot. So if you miss them, you can go watch them. We've been holding, I don't know if other projects do that, but we've been holding release briefings. For all releases, we have a presentation going over the changelog and explaining what it means for people and answering questions. So we had 2 of these. And there's one where important, and I'll tell you why a bit later. And we also had two talks worth mentioning. Christian and I had a talk at the HPC best practice webinars, and these things are great, and I encourage everybody here, if you're not already aware of them, to follow this seminar series. And we've done, amongst many things, a few things worth mentioning regarding the best practices. So we only recently started using Zenodo from 5.0. Which, if you're not familiar with it, it's something that gives you DOI so that you can cite actual version of the code. And so we're newbies, and we would love to talk to those like, I think, Axel and others who have experience on how we can improve the integration with GitHub. We're making progress towards the OpenSSF Silver Badge. We're not rushing it, but we're targeting it. Luke and I participated in the inaugural Bird Arrow training program that's for open source leaders. And we have a talk later this week, a little bit about what we took out of it and what we're planning on doing. And it was great, and come ask us, and you might want to participate. It's really a great program. Okay, so on the code front, except 4.6.1, all of these releases are tagged release in Kokkos since last year, since we met. And so I mentioned the 4.7, which was the last of the 4x series for us, and we do this in Kokkos. The last release we support for a full year, so long term to some extent, but for us it's long term. One thing that comes with major releases in Kokkos is we bump our minimum C++ requirements. So now we require C++ 20. And that's why we give long-term support for some people who still need a bit more time to migrate. And that's great because it means, the new standard means that we can get rid of a lot of toolchain that are, particularly painful. And so our strategy is usually we maintain throughout the 5x cycle the same minimum requirements. So our release are really time-based. We release 4 times a year, 3 times a year, sorry, every 4 months. And so every 3 years, we bump our minimum requirement. Among the interesting things that happen with Kokkos 5, we introduce experimental support for C++20 modules. So go try them and tell us how much better your compilation got. And we had some major overhaul of our main data structure, which, I mean, it's an ongoing joke. I mean, I've joined the project in 2018, and it was the highest priority back then. But we actually completed it. There's some fine print, and we're working out some kinks, but we're really, really happy we finally performed this. And underneath the hood, what it uses is standard MDSpan implementation, which means our data structure becomes naturally compatible with the Amrex data structure that they mentioned earlier, the ND array, which is great. So another thing that you might not be aware in the Kokkos world is we actually started like a couple years ago spinning up our own working groups. And so Kokkos is, and I'll tell you more about it in a little bit, but we have a collection of packages. And so there's effort kind of transcend all the packages. And so our first, just like in HPSF, our first working group was the continuous integration, because that's a painful thing. The difference with HPSF is that it really solely focused on concretely maintaining and improving our testing. And there is a talk later this week by Daniel and Nathan, who are the chair of this working group, and they can tell you more. They're really the interface of the Kokkos project with the foundation working group. And so we also have a build and packaging working group that help shape our build system and interface with groups like SPAC, and help all the sub-project and our user downstream try to give them best practices on how to use SPAC and deploy. And we have a brand new working group, just hot out of the press, training and education, because it's a pressing need on our side, and we're hoping that that's something that's also going to start appearing in the HPSF working group. So we didn't wait for this one, but we hope that HPSF is going to spin one up. And we have a lot of other ideas. We're kind of lagging behind on benchmarking, but obviously it's something that's really important to us. So if you're interested in reading about them, you can find it on our website. So a bit more about our ecosystem. So can be hard to navigate. So on the top, you can see Kokkos Core, which is kind of the programming model, which the project is just called Kokkos, but it gets confusing for people. Then Kokkos kernels are the math libraries, essentially, Kokkos tools and whatnot. And so we have, so one big thing that happened this year is we have a FFT library that's reaching more mature states right now with their 1.0 release. And so what we want to do in the future is we want to develop our own life cycle for sub-project to help people navigate a bit our jungle. And it's probably going to be inspired from what we do in HPSF, but with requirement more tailored to the reality of what we do. About the contributor base, so I got some data from the LFX Insight that all of you have access to if your project is in the foundation, and we were looking at contribution from organization, how it was a couple years ago and how last year was. And we're really happy to really concretely see CEA imposing themselves as one of the big three contributors to Kokkos. So it's a great thing. We hope that the part from any organization is going to get smaller and smaller, and we'll have more contributors. So there's things that, I mean, it's just on the one hand, it shows you that there's more involvement, but it also means nothing, right? It's all repository at once, total contribution. But yeah, you see CEA is really appearing now. Another thing we had actually last week is we have developer meetings. The last one was a year and a half ago, and we try to do this. This year was a bit more complicated to bring everybody in. But we had 14 person who came, and virtual, it's an estimation, like the people came and went. But if you guys don't do that and have large group, you should think about doing this, because we really think that even though we're really good at working remotely, this face-to-face meeting really matter. So the way we usually organize our weeks is we do some short hackathons, trying to tackle some things while we're all in the room. But we invest way more time doing more like retrospective on what, how well we've done and what can we do better. And sometimes we just come together to change something and see a bit as an experiment if we can improve our practice. And we do a lot of planning and team building. These things are really important to make progress later. And yeah, that's it. So at this conference, you can see we have a good number of talks that are going to be there. There's going to be one on education, another one on by Patrick, another one about trying to have a platform for best practices, just transcending project, not just Kokkos. And yeah, sorry, I don't have my glasses, but there's a talk also, the one I mentioned on community playbook, beyond the code, how do you make sure that you can make progress as a group, and whatnot. Anyway, I'm not going to read it. You can find us. So we have a bunch of talks. And we, like last year, we're going to hold, so it will be our 4th Kokkos user group meeting, and it's going to be over 2 days, and it's going to be really cool, and you should come. And so what's next? So we are getting ready to upstream a new Next Silicon backend. So we've been working on it for a while. There is a talk by Carl this week that's going to talk a bit about co-design that you should see. We are really looking forward to improving our website with the help of the LF Creative Services. And as I mentioned, we're going to develop that lifecycle for the project. And the last thing is we wanted to say that we are ready, and we are going to submit our Candid AC to become a core project to the TAC later after this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien. Any first questions? Yeah, Andrew.
Is your ultimate plan for Parallel 4 to be part of the C++ standard? And if so, do you have like a timeline for when that might happen?
No, it's not our plan. What I can tell you, so it's a long conversation, but the high level is what we're going to make sure of is that you can seamlessly compose workloads that are written in Kokkos with others that are written in standard way of expressing asynchrony, which makes that we will naturally work with you guys if you obey to this. But no, we're not going to push the Parallel 4 into the standard. But one thing is we have implemented with an algorithm sub-package in Kokkos, and we have all the C++ standard parallelism, so that integrate even further with the standard. Yeah.
Great. Next question. I have a question about backends. I recently, again, tried to research what would be needed to implement Apple Silicon, which is like hard. Do you have any plans there, or do you just see it also as extremely hard to support?
So we would actually really love to support it, because I mean, you just see how many people here have some of these fancy laptops. Not you, but everybody else. The thing is, Apple doesn't, to this day, doesn't really give us what we need. I mean, it's the details we can do later. But to give you a high level, the only perspective we would have would be maybe OpenCL, which we weren't really wanting to go into. So we're hoping that maybe, with more weight as a foundation, we can talk with them and encourage them to give us a programming model that's better than the metal thingy that they have. And talk to me after I've played with it, and I can tell you the details of why it doesn't work.
Yeah, I have a similar impression. Or otherwise, at least expose more in the LLVM stack that they already have.
Rather specific question. Is DLlib deprecated at this point? It looks like commits hasn't been made in about 10 years or so.
I'm sorry, I did not understand which.
DLlib is an optional dependency for Kokkos, and was just wondering if that's deprecated at this point.
You mean DL, like the, yeah, I mean.
The deep learning library.
Oh, the deep learning. I'm actually not familiar with this, if there's anyone else in the Kokkos ecosystem that knows. Yeah, I talked to me or Luke afterwards. I don't know what you're referring to.
No worries.
Hey, Christy from Livermore. I was just curious what you guys have to show for graduating to a core project. Like, what do you have to prove, I guess, to HBSF to do that?
So if you go to the GitHub repo for the foundation, you can see the exact criterion. But emerging, you have to show good alignment and initial good practice. That's mostly what it's about. To graduate to establish, which is the level we are at, one of the key things is we are much more careful about looking that you have a healthy flux of incoming work, that it's not too stale, your repo. And the more difficult part for some project is like really strong evidence of usage at by independent parties. I think we say 3, but not just a colleague of mine said he used my code once. Like strong evidence. To get to the next level, so the contribution has to be, much more substantial and more usage. And we were, since the beginning, we were there with Kokkos. One of the key determining factors that we were missing is representativity and control of the project. If you go there, you'll see that you need 4 different people in the steering committee, and that no institution can control more than half. And we are, if you saw the list of speakers, that was the leadership team, we're already there basically, because we have now, I didn't really highlight it, but we have welcomed Julien Bigot from the CEA on our steering committee. So now we're already there. So essentially, we're going to put together a presentation, and the TAC will review it, and hopefully, we'll get there.
Great question. Yep, over there.
Joseph from Stony Brook. You mentioned hackathons, and I apologize if you said it already. I guess these hackathons were for developers, right?
Correct. So one thing I should have said when I was going over the working groups is that these things are really open to the rest of the world. We're really happy about it. We had people who used to be external get involved. Like for the build and packaging, we have Spark experts that started, coming with us on the CI. We have other parties that are more on the downstream side that help with integration. So this very hackathon I mentioned was the developers. You're right, but if you're in the, around the ecosystem and interested in interoperability, these things qualify are things that we do.
I was actually more interested in hackathons for users, and maybe that's more something that sites should organize, but.
No, that's a really good question. So hackathon, so we don't, for a long time, we don't organize these things ourselves. We happily staff them. This is a lot of work. You should talk to people from the leadership computing facilities, and they have specialized staff in this. And so what we've been doing in the last, as long as I've been in the project, we don't anymore organize our own, but we, if the LCF come together and put one, we will staff them. And at their regular hackathon that they do, there's going to be one for Oak Ridge soonish. When they find teams that need expert in Kokkos, we staff them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.